Mute. Okay, now that we are unmuted and attending by phone and internet, and a few of us in the chambers, let me announce that the meeting's called to order. We're in the City Council chambers. It's our City Marshalltown meeting at 10 West State Street. The date is November 9, 2020. The time's 5:30 p.m. Notice to the public, the mayor and council welcome comments from the public during discussion of any of the agenda items. Step to the mic or talk on your phone. State your name and address for the record. Limit your time to 3 minutes so others may speak. Speak clearly and direct the comments to the mayor and council and not to any councilor specifically. It's at the discretion of the mayor and council to respond or to have staff respond during the meeting. Now that we've been called to order, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance for those able. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's start the roll call.
Cahill? Here. Gowdy?
Here.
Hoop?
Here.
Isom?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Thompson?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Very good. Does anybody on the council or the city administrator wish to make any comments before we start on the consent agenda?
I do have a few comments. Just as a general reminder, Wednesday is Veterans Day, and so our city offices will be shut down that day as we do some training and things. But because this year is a little bit different where we don't get to have everybody together in person to do some training, we typically recognize our veterans during that time. And so I'd just like to take this moment to thank all of those who are city employees and elected officials who have taken it upon themselves to serve our country, and say thank you for that. The second thing that I would just like to announce is that we do have one of our very big catalyst projects that will be opening very soon. Supermarket Via Chihuahua is going to be opening on November 19th, so next week. And that's when they're doing the grand opening. We got to take a tour last week, and it's a very impressive thing, and I hope that you all will be able to go visit, as well as those in the community, and see what some of those dollars that we've invested into the community have resulted in.
Very good. Thank you, Jessica. Unless anyone else would like to speak, let's call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Cahill? Yes. Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
Yes.
Isom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Very good. Madam Clerk, would you read those for us?
Approve minutes for the October 26, 2020 meeting and bill lists in the amount of $1,977,599.60. Approve liquor license renewal for TC's at 921 North 3rd Avenue. The receipt of the building permit report for September and October of 2020. Resolution approving engineer's statement of completion and accepting the South 7th Avenue Extension Project ECO 18001. Resolution approving the FAA Federal Airport Improvement Program for the Marshalltown Municipal Airport 5-year capital improvement plan. Tentative resolution providing for the conveyance and transfer of title to the property herein described from the City of Marshalltown, Iowa to Rosemont Companies, LLC. Resolution setting a public hearing for the conveyance and transfer of title of city-owned vacant lots.
Very good. Thank you. Then on to item G, which is resolutions. Just one of those tonight. Would you read that for us?
Resolution approving an agreement for professional services with Fox Engineering for the Water Pollution Control Plant Clarifier Number 1 repairs in the City of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $139,200.
Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Your Honor.
Thank you. Discussion.
Good evening, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director, and joining us on the phone if we need them, we do have Lance Aldrich and Taylor Hopper from Fox Engineering and Bob Ranson, the plant superintendent. The real quick and dirty is one of our 2 final clarifiers at the water pollution control plant has a heave in the concrete floor of the giant cylindrical structure and is in need of repair. Jessica, do you mind scrolling through the slides? Otherwise, I can do. So the clarifiers are the 3 silver circles. Clarifier number 1 being the one in the middle of the picture. Would be furthest to the south. Yep, correct. If you'll scroll to the next picture, here's a picture of the clarifier and the dewatering well, both constructed in 1982. The dewatering well is used to keep the upward hydraulic pressure from the groundwater, and of course, being that close to the river, a serious amount of groundwater pushing up on the bottom of the concrete floor. Next slide. This is a picture of the scum skimmer. So the scum skimmer is an arm that goes around in the circle inside the clarifier, pulls off the scum and the debris that you can see floating on the top of the water. Next slide. Difficult to see in this, but this is a picture of the concrete floor as they've dewatered the clarifier. You can see the cracking, and then if you know what you're looking at, you can tell that it's heaved because there is the dark water around the outsides of the picture, and the water floor, the elevation of the floor should be level, so there wouldn't be any concrete sticking up out if it wasn't heaved. Next slide. And then this is closer to the center of the clarifier, where the axis for the pivot arm is located, and again you can see that it's heaved. The dark around the outside is actually water sitting in the bottom of the clarifier, while the concrete is heaved and cracked. Same story here. Difficult to see in the picture. It's a little easier when you're looking on your computer monitor, but again, the perimeter of the concrete floor heaved. Next slide. Fox and the Water Pollution Control Plant and myself have looked through the project cost. I should mention that also clarifier number 2 had the same problems about 2 years ago. We were able to make some temporary repairs to make the pipe that takes the water from the clarifier and moves it on to the next process in the Water Pollution Control Plant, and we're able to get final clarifier number 2 back in service. But at this time, we do recommend this total project cost of $1,465,000. You can see it's broken out with the cost of final clarifier number 1 of $1,005,000, final clarifier number 2, $440,000, and then additional wells to try and pump down and keep the groundwater at a lower elevation so that we don't go through this process again of a water uprising that pushes on the bottom of the floor and causes damage. So at this time, staff and Fox are recommending the total project cost of $1,465,000. Is there one more? Yeah, there's a couple more slides, Jessica. So for final clarifier number 1, for that $1 million, you get a floor replacement, remove and reinstall the clarifier mechanism, which would include painting, replacement of the pipe underneath the floor that takes the water on to the next process, new relief valves, rehab of the final clarifier drive, so that axis and the arm that circles the tank, and a new scum baffle to get those larger materials moved on. Next slide. For final clarifier number 2, requires a partial concrete floor replacement. We would also include sandblasting and painting the mechanism, replace the piping under the floor, like I stated, new relief valves, rehab of the clarifier drive, and a new scum baffle on final clarifier number 2 as well. And then the $20,000 for monitoring wells and dewatering wells, like I stated, to keep the hydraulic pressure upwards on the bottom of the floor to a minimum. Like I mentioned, we have Fox Engineering on the phone, Bob on the phone, or myself. Are there any questions I can, I should an engineering agreement is for $139,200, and that's what we're asking for approval tonight. Once we have that engineering agreement in place, we will work through the winter and probably into the early spring on the final design of the repairs, with the hopes of getting those underway in late spring or early summer to try and get them repaired as soon as possible. We were relatively lucky in 2020 that it was so dry that we didn't have a need for the use of clarifier number 1. We were able to work with just clarifier number 2. But in a rainy season, we may not have been so lucky. Can I answer any questions and stop talking now?
Yes.
As a lawyer, I'm kind of curious about how much those scum removers cost. I could probably use one of those.
We can find out for you, Joel.
I do have a question. What happens if we do nothing?
Final clarifier number 1 cannot go back into service, and I would say with 1 out of the 2 operating, in a heavy rain event or in a large flow event, we would not have the capacity to treat as much water, the sewer water, as we would like.
Very good, thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
So Justin, if we can't treat it, we're dumping raw sewage through the system into the river?
I don't think it's quite that simple. So we could take you on the process through there, but we would need to store more water as it comes into the plant in the lagoons is the first step that they come into. So they're like the ponds to the southeast. It may get to a point where we would have to, essentially tell some citizens, no, you can't flush the toilet in your area of town because we simply can't treat that.
And then this engineering study you want approval of tonight, that will come back with a firm
It would. We would have to
firm
send
estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At that dollar amount, we would have to put this out to bid. So yeah, it'd be
Right.
our intention to be back to you, I think, in February or March with some plans to put out on the street
And
get
you
your
can turn it
approval.
around that fast?
That's our intent. It's not overly complicated. You're really kind of replacing some of the pieces in the mechanism that you already have. The concrete floor, you're really just cutting out and putting back and using reinforcing to make sure that that concrete floor, I hope, doesn't heave. I can't guarantee that it wouldn't heave, but that'd be the intention.
And then one final question, if I may. Do we need to look at number 3 at the same time as part of this study?
I guess I should probably let Bob or Lance, or that they haven't brought that to my
If
attention.
we've
that
got them
number
on
3.
site to give us estimates, how much life is in 3, I guess?
Would anybody besides me like to answer that question?
Number 3 is still functioning, and it is part of our redundancy. So we have 2 in service, 1 is a spare. So right now 3 has a lot less time on it because it's been a spare for so many years. But it is smaller, so it is not meant for day-to-day duty work. It's made for peak shaving and backup.
So it has a lot of life in it, Bob?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. I do have one other question, if I may, Your Honor.
You may.
What then, this repair work, how does that extend the life of these? What is our life expectancy after this repair work is done?
I could take a guesstimate, but maybe I'll let Lance, or probably let Lance answer that question.
Yeah, I can answer that. It should place the clarifier into 20 years more of service life before any other work would have to begin. Usually that sandblasting and painting of the mechanism extends life about 20 years. Now, of course, the fixing the floor and we're putting a new concrete floor down and getting the piping fixed underneath, I mean, that life is 40, 50, 60 years. Well, hard to put a number on it, but quite long.
All right, thank you very much.
Other comments or questions? Roll call. Oh, I forget to ask for public comment, don't I? Let's unmute for 10 seconds.
Let me get them first, 1 second. Okay, the lines are all unmuted, Your Honor.
Okay, back to mute and roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Very good. That carried as well. On to discussion items then. That's item H, and the first one is discussion of request for funding for MCB and incentive grant for year 22.
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little introduction of this before Nate McCormick, the current president of the Marshalltown Central Business District, jumps in. It is this time of year typically when we review these requests from the MCBD for their annual operating funding, as well as then additional funding for the incentive grant. And so Nate will go over more of the specifics with you. To clarify why we do it now and not, sometime later in the budget process is because we do use tax increment financing from the downtown TIF district. And we're proposing, as we have for the last few years, that we would use cash on hand, which we have to represent on some documents that would would come before you at the next city council meeting. So that is the purpose of having the request on tonight, is to meet those timeframes that are required for TIF. And with that, I will turn it over to Nate McCormick to talk to you more about the requests.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Perfect. Well, this is Nate McCormick, 1904 Bailey Drive, and I am the current president of the Marshalltown Central Business District. Wanted to start off by saying thank you to the city and the council for the support of the downtown. It's been a tough 2020 for many of our downtown building and business owners, dealing with pandemic, which, when you think about businesses that are located downtown, bars, restaurants, obviously disproportionately impacted by a lot of the things going on with COVID. We've really been working hard this year to try to support and do everything that we can for our community down there. That's been everything from kind of that moral support after, as our executive director, Deb Milzer, is out talking with folks, trying to find out what they need, help connect them with resources, both financial and emotional resources to help them get through the tough times of the pandemic. And then, of course, the derecho threw another wrench in all of that. So we've reached out along with our partners in the community. We've looked at and have actually implemented a couple of different grant programs to help support those businesses. We've connected our building and business owners with funding opportunities from the state and the city to really incentivize not just rebuilding from the tornado and from the derecho, but actually building back better, building up to a higher standard. And you can start to see some of those buildings as you look around downtown, some of those new facades coming up and things like that. So there's those big visible things, but there's also that hard work of trying to connect downtown with the community every day. And we've really ramped up this year the exposure that we're getting to our downtown businesses around Facebook and connecting them with some of our promotions. We did the Find Marshall the Bee. I don't know if any of you or your families participated in that this summer. Some nice social distanced support for our local businesses there. Got a great response to that. And sometimes it's just posting a picture or a video from the front of the store and encouraging people to come downtown. We provided the opening information for all the downtown businesses, what hours, any special requirements during the midst of COVID this summer. And then we're really looking forward here, a shameless plug for November the 21st for our socially distanced holiday stroll, reverse parade, and you'll be able to see Santa through the windows and see some other performances and things like that. So really working to keep driving those fun activities and those things that give life to our downtown despite all the challenges. So really been working hard through this year. And then the biggest one that just came through recently, and hopefully some of you may see this in the paper and the news or on Facebook, is that we were just selected for one of the Iowa Main Street Iowa Challenge grants for a total of $74,000 to help rebuild the facade and the outside structure at Zamora's on the corner there of Center and Main. So critically important to the look and the feel of our downtown as you come into town, and a great opportunity and a great partnership between local funding with the incentive grant, some private donations, and some funding from the MCBD, some funding from other sources in town, and then obviously the building owner and business owner as well. So great opportunity there to partner and really have a big impact on such a critical location in our downtown. So with all that going on, we continue to work to diversify our funding sources. We're rolling out here in the next few weeks our investment campaign to reach out to our downtown building and business owners and our friends in the community to work on funding for the next fiscal year. And as a piece of that, obviously the city is a huge partner for us on that funding discussion. So our request for fiscal 22 for the fiscal year starting in July would be to increase the city's contribution to $35,000 for that fiscal year beginning July of 2021. As we continue to help rebuild the downtown, and that work is still going, that additional support is really critical to assuring that we've got the right stability, the right staff. We can maintain the level of support that we've had up to this point, but also look at taking those donations, those things that come in from those sources outside the city, and really use them to make things better and build new programs. So that's really where we're at. Jessica, would you, or Mr. Mayor, would you like me to continue on to the incentive grant, or do you want to hold there for questions?
I'd say go ahead and continue.
Okay. So the other letter that's in your packet there is about the incentive grant. So the incentive grant is the facade grant, the building code improvement grant. These are programs that allow our building owners in the downtown to put their own funding in. And this allows them to defray some of the costs of doing these building upgrades. And as you can see, in the last 2 years, we have been extremely busy. I went back and looked at the data, and we've done more projects in the last 18 months than we had in the previous 5 years. So a huge amount of new stuff going into downtown. A total of $165,000 in incentive programs over 2019 and 2020 up to this point, with darn near little over 800,000, and I fully expect we will be knocking on the door of $1 million investment into our downtown, private investment into our downtown that's been incentivized by these incentive grants. So really a great tool, great return on investment. And then of course that's just the dollars and cents. The beautification and the improvement in the built environment is definitely substantial. Some of the most recent ones, we've seen the La Salud was certainly a beneficiary of that. The new City Center CGA building, again, looks very, very nice, repainted. And there's many more projects that have been run in the last 18 months. Those are just a couple of the most recent ones. So we think we're going to continue to see some pretty significant activity in this. There's about $50,000. Jessica can probably tell you the exact number. There's about $50,000 available in that fund today. We anticipate the need for at least an additional $40,000 going into the fiscal year beginning July 21. That's based on what we're seeing out there from kind of potential projects, and then trying to get back to maybe a little bit more of a more normal run rate on what we would normally consider versus the derecho and tornado recovery kind of run rates, which have been significantly higher. Overall, though, I think this program continues to pay really substantial dividends in reinvestment in our downtown, and highly recommend that you consider the additional $40,000 going into next year.
Thank you.
With that, I'll certainly answer any questions or any thoughts you guys have.
Okay. From the council first, any questions or comments?
Your Honor, if I could, I truly have to applaud. We have gone through just a devastating last 2.5 years, from the tornado to the pandemic to the derecho, and to be able to partner with different organizations, whether it is the state and some of their incentive funds and the grant fundings and the facade fundings. I'm not sure what we would look like if we did not have those funds available. So I certainly feel that any help we can offer our small business people on Main Street and throughout the downtown area, we need to help them in that facility as we are able, so that they can continue to expand and grow their businesses even through these very, very difficult times we've had in the last few years.
Well put. Thank you, Sue. Any other comments?
Your Honor, I have some questions. I don't know if these questions are for Nate or for Jessica. So first of all, Nate, if I heard you right, the city council has put up about $82,000 a year for facade grants for each year for the last 2 years.
That's not quite right. I can go back and pull the totals. The total that has been dispersed in the last 2 years is $165,000. Well, a little more than that. But there was some funding in the incentive grant account, let's say, going into the tornado and the derecho. So it's the total amount invested in the last 2 years is somewhat lower than that.
Okay. And then thanks, Nate. And then Jessica, has the council ever turned down a facade grant request?
Oh, that's a good question. In my time here, I don't recall anything. There's a few of you who have been here longer than I have, so but I don't recall that there ever has been anything. This truly is a process where the grants are vetted by a small committee before they ever come forward. So they're really the ones that are working out the details, and if there's any question, it's usually not coming forward with the recommendation until that question has been answered.
So to put this money, do we have to put the $40,000 in now? I mean, we've always approved every facade. We can put money in any time, right?
You certainly could. I would say doing it now is really taking an action that is for July 1st of 2021. So that's what's before you tonight, is these would be things that would be effective as of July 1st of 2021. So it's not a now per se, it's
Right.
next fiscal year.
But realistically, $40,000 is not enough.
I would say, and Nate, you can rephrase this if you'd like to, it's enough for what we can likely expect for what's
Okay.
happening right now.
Okay. And then historically, how much have we funded towards the CBD organization on the operational side?
I believe that in 2016, 2015, I think it was $30,000 a year. And so there have been a few more requests. I should say that the tornado and COVID did change things in that they really couldn't run a membership campaign. And so that's really where I think it was in the year of the tornado, 2018, where we took what was going to be facade grant money and converted it to operational funds that went to support the MCBD. And we did this with some additional money here this year in light of COVID-19. So, and to go to a point that Sue made is that this is a really strong partnership. They are a Main Street, Iowa community, and there are many sources of state funding that would not have come our way post-tornado, as well as some other ones pre-tornado with challenge grants for different projects and things, had we not had a Main Street, Iowa partnership here.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Any other questions or comments? Let's go ahead and unmute.
The lines are unmuted, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. Roll call.
Just
This is a discussion item, sorry.
Yeah, so I would say what we're looking for is if there would be a motion and a second to have these funding requests placed onto the next agenda for approval.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
I would ask if we move forward with these, that they be two separate items, one for the facade refunding or additional funding, and then one for the operational.
We can sure do that depending on the motion made.
I'll take that as a motion, and I will second.
Okay. All in favor of doing these separately, or are we treating?
They can be done separately, that's perfectly fine. I was gonna say, the way that we've done it is they've been combined in the same agreement, and so I can work with our legal counsel at Dorsey and Whitney to make sure that we just have two agreements rather than amending the past agreement, so.
I guess for clarity and paper trail moving forward, I would like to separate the operational funds. I mean, I don't know how I mean, if we need to vote on that, but I'd like to see it separated, the operational funds, because we're using taxpayer money to finance an organization, that, is on the operational side. I don't think anyone disagrees with the facade part of it, but I think we need to have, when this comes back up, I think we need to have some serious discussion about, are we going to continue to fund organizations that are not per se city? And I'm saying that now because we don't know what the future of the chamber, if they're coming downtown or not, and I believe the chamber coming downtown may change this organization.
It only changes if those two organizations want to make a change, I would say, yeah.
Right, but that's a possibility.
It certainly could be.
Okay.
And rather than take a vote on whether we just do these separately, I would entertain a motion to approve either both at the same time or one or the other alone.
Is the motion that was already laid not sufficient?
But the best way I could interpret that was that it was a motion to treat these separately and vote separately. And since we don't really have a motion that would approve any funding yet, I'm thinking it might be simpler just to have somebody move to approve, say, the facade grant part of it first, take that vote, and then visit about the other part.
I can do that. I'll revoke my motion, and we'll take one at a time. I move that we move forward with putting the facade part of the discussion on the agenda for debate.
Second, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any further discussion about this one? Roll call.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
And then, Your Honor, if I may,
You may.
I would move that we take this discussion item of the funding of the operational aspect of the Marshalltown Central Business District organization, move it forward to a resolution for the next meeting to discuss the operational funds.
I'll treat that as a motion to table, and I think that does require a second.
No, I'm saying I want to move forward with that.
Okay, maybe
A separate item that we vote on, a resolution come forward on the operational funds. Does that make sense or not?
it does. I'm not sure I understood the timing of it, though. I can put our clerk on the spot and ask for a readback of what the motion is.
to place the fiscal funding on the next agenda with the resolution moving forward.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Your Honor, I do agree that the operational funding for the last 2-3 years has been extraordinary. It started with the tornado because, again, they felt they could not go to their members to gain the membership funds because those were people who had been very hard hit by the tornado. Again, the pandemic then expanded that. Many of our restaurants and establishments and retail establishments had limited access to their usual activities, and then the derecho on top of that. So I do agree that that can be a separate issue, and we need to look at that year by year. And it's terrible that 3 years in a row we've had issues that have brought that forward. And I'm sorry for that, but I'm glad that we're able to take a look at that and try and find a way to help our Main Street businesses to carry forward.
Thank you. Other comments?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I just wanted to clarify two things, and one is that the request for fiscal 21 is intended to take us back to approximately the funding that we had prior to the two disasters. So it's certainly a little bit higher. I think we were at about $30,000 previously, so it is a slight increase. But it's not intended to be of the same scale as during the disasters. So I wanted to make that clear. We certainly do appreciate the additional support, and what that additional support during the disasters done is allow us to extend the services and the support of the Central Business District and the Main Street Iowa organization to all businesses in the downtown, and not just those who are members. And we've actually, as the Marshalltown Central Business District Board, we have also decided to continue that strategy and that mission of trying to take the services and the support that's available and make them available to the entire downtown. So as we continue to figure out how that works from a funding standpoint and continue to work our investment drive this year, we'll learn more about how that's going to pan out. But it is our intention to continue that process of bringing that to everybody. So I just want to make that clear to everyone. And then the other is about the incentive grant, and that's and again, just for clarity, the funding in the incentive grant does not flow into the Marshalltown Central Business District as an organization. That funding is held separately by the city and is only dispersed when the grants are approved and completed.
Thanks, Nate, for clarifying that. Other questions or comments? Let's unmute.
The lines are unmuted.
Okay. Go ahead and mute, and let's call the roll.
Isom,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Very good. We'll discuss this at the next meeting. And before going on to the next topic, I would like to say I haven't been attending the CBD meetings, but I still get the minutes and know that Deb has been really good about going out with usually a volunteer, one of the former business owners, to stop at every single business to see how people are doing. So from everything I've heard, she's doing a nice job there as the director. Let's go on to discussion item number 2, and that's the Marshalltown Police Department and YSS pilot project update. Chief Tupper.
Good evening, Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So I will definitely be brief. I just wanted to say thank you again for your support of this project. The feedback since we last were before you to talk about this from the public has been overwhelmingly positive. It's been unbelievable. So every day I hear from somebody that is really excited about this project. So since we last appeared before you, we've been meeting weekly. Team of community members, folks from YSS and the police department, and we've been talking about how we move this project forward. We intend to bring a draft MOU and resolution to you, first meeting in December, which I think is December 14th, for you to take a look at. David Hicks is here tonight. He'll talk about the hiring process, but that process has gotten kicked off, and we really hope we can get this off the ground in early 2021. So. And never in my entire career have these services been more necessary than right now. And our police officers are dealing with some chaotic times, as we all are, and we need access to these social services. So thank you again for your support, and I'm going to turn it over to David Hicks, YSS of Marshall County.
Thanks, Chief.
Good evening, David Hicks, YSS of Marshall County Director. I want to give you a little past, present, and future of what we're looking at with this program, which, as Chief Tupper indicated, it's grown pretty quick, and we haven't even hired anybody yet. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So our work group has been meeting weekly for the past month and a half. So we've had folks from YSS, the PD, we've had Unity Point, staff from the schools, social services, and business leaders as well, just to kind of get a handle of what the community is thinking about this project. So I've been leading the meetings, and really the first meeting was to assess the needs of the police department, to determine what the needs are. And we certainly know what they are, but just to have their staff there discussing in detail what those specific needs are. So that kind of drove what the responsibilities would be for this position. So we know what we're going to be having to work towards and being able to fill those needs. The next few meetings arranged for what type of people do we want in this role. Ultimately, we want right person, right seat. And I know there's been several comments of let's get this program started now, let's get this going. Well, it's a little bit slower process than I'm sure what you want it to be. But again, right person, right seat. So we talked about the traits, the skills, the knowledge that's needed, so that would then drive the job description. So we kind of had a methodical process of what this is going to look like. So job description's finished. It went live Friday. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. But as we move forward with the $150,000, which is a substantial amount of money, but once you start looking at the needs that the police have, that was certainly indicated that they're going to need a wide variety of coverage. So we've kind of landed on 2 full-time staff working probably 10-hour chunks for that 40-hour week period, with some overtime built in there, so the hours will be substantial. And once you have a set of money, of course, your biggest expense is always personnel, and we have to have a decent salary to bring in that right person in the right seat mentality. So knowing that we would have to not only fulfill the $150,000 budget, but how could we expand the budget a little bit? So what we did was we worked with Central Iowa Community Services, which is a mental health organization in Central Iowa. They had CARES money available. So we applied for a grant, and when I say we, YSS of not only Marshall County, but Story County. With those CARES dollars, they had to be driven with a mental health need in mind, and that's what we did. So with this grant we were awarded, it will allow us to buy 2 laptops, provide training, marketing, PPE, startup materials, startup time, leading these meetings. We haven't even received any money yet, but we have to certainly have these meetings to get the program started. And then purchase a client transportation vehicle. So YSS of Marshall County used the $150,000 from the city to get a $40,000 match from Central Iowa Community Services to expand that budget. So we're kind of expanding the dollars, because once we put in technology needs, startup needs, and then the $150,000 is just gone quickly. And again, that's a substantial amount of money. So we were really pleased that we were able to get that community service grant. Some of the other things we started to really look at is what are the outcomes? What do we want to see happen? What will look different? What will be better? So we really started to look at, and this was really driven by Chief Tupper and his crew, number one, reduction of arrests when appropriate, jail diversion. Instead of hauling somebody off to jail, perhaps we come in and work out a situation where we can provide services. Keeps them in the home, but again, that jail diversion, hopefully we'll see some substantial savings. Secondly, free up police department time. If we're able to respond to a call that's been vetted by the police, that's determined safe, we can be on scene working with the family or individual, while maybe one of the police officers or maybe both are then freed up to do other law enforcement duties. So we see a substantial potential savings there. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, to intervene, educate, refer, help out families in Marshalltown, maybe save some lives, who knows? And you can't really put a price tag on that. So we do have some outcomes and some measures that we're going to follow, so then we can report back to you quarterly how well we're doing, what we're seeing, provide some anecdotal stories of our staff visiting with families or intervening on police their behalf. And one of the concerns that I've heard, and Chief Tupper's echoed those to me as well, is how do we keep the social workers safe? Isn't it going to be dangerous? Well, we've kind of developed a little bit of a flow chart, and one of the options, or many options, would be call comes into 911, police respond, they assess the situation, determine that it's safe and appropriate, and then we come alongside to provide assistance. Potentially, it's a walk-in to the police department where we'll have staff that are housed. There's some safety issues there as well, but we are not going to be responding to violent situations. The police will be there first. They'll assess it. 911 Emergency Communications will assess it as well. Chief Tupper's biggest story or echo that he's been giving me is we got to keep you guys safe. That's priority one, keeping social workers safe. And I wholeheartedly agree. But we have the opportunity to make some real inroads to helping families here in Marshalltown, so we're really looking forward to that. Again, it comes down to right person, right seat. So we have a job description out there. We've kind of worked through the budget, and we're going to finalize that MOU to have it out to you folks in first part of December. We have one applicant thus far, which I think is pretty good. Of course, we're going to run the ad and assess those applicants probably for a good 2 to 3 weeks. So our time frame is to assess that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Interview in December, provide some sort of opportunity for hire in later December, and then get this off the ground in January. So we've been pretty aggressive with our time frame and leading our meetings each week. I've been very driven with here's our topics for today, here's what we're moving forward with, here's what we can report back on. So we've got a lot of great opportunities here, and publicity we've been receiving has been great. What has annoyed me the most is they don't get the name right. So the name is IMPACT, M-P-A-C-T, Marshalltown Police and Community Team. IMPACT. We were kicking around names, and I've had some sleepless nights lately trying to work through this program, and IMPACT hit me at 2:30 in the morning. And the names just kind of fell into place. I said, that's it. I'm going to present this to the team. They ran with it, and here we are with IMPACT. We feel that the name is appropriate. Obviously, we're working with Marshalltown Police, but this is a community effort. This is more than just YSS and a couple people doing the work. This is business leaders, school, hospital staff, city leaders. This is a community partnership here. So look forward to the next steps in this. Would certainly love to entertain questions or concerns that you may have. Certainly can bring up Chief Tupper if he has more concerns, but I feel good about the direction we're going, feel confident, and really feel the love of the community, because everyone has said this is a great program. Why haven't we been doing this all along? And I would agree.
David, I have a question.
Yes, Bill?
I am completely confident on the confidentiality between our police department and YSS and this pilot project. I'd just like to have you address, maybe each one of you, how you'll handle that, if it's any different than the normal agency-to-agency confidentiality and also records, if that's any different. Maybe you could address that, David.
Yeah, Chief Tupper and I just had this conversation last week about not only HIPAA, but confidentiality in regards to what the police will deal with, what we have to deal with. So unless they're an admitted client and we're exchanging mental health information, a lot of that confidentiality will remain intact. Unless there's founded abuse, neglect, serious concern for injury, self-harm, that's what we're really going to have to follow. But we're going to have to respect confidentiality if we're intervening with a family. But again, this is very new. There's really no model to follow. So we have to really respect the potential clients that we'll have, but also respect the need for law enforcement to enforce laws, rules, and regulations. So we will protect, that mental health info, all that HIPAA stuff, substance abuse information, and we'll protect that to the point that we can provide services. But again, we will likely refer out a lot of those services to other agencies with that expertise. Chief, do you want to add anything to that?
we deal with confidential information every day, and there's a lot of criminal justice information that David and I have talked about too that will have to remain confidential. So we navigate HIPAA and confidentiality rules with our other community partners on a daily basis. So certainly this is something a little bit new and unique, but I have no doubt we'll be able to navigate those challenges, and our goal is always to do the right thing by the clients that are being served by YSS, and we certainly want to protect the confidentiality rights of the citizens that we interact with. So that is my pledge to you.
Thank you.
I've been telling people it's the most interesting thing I've seen happen at this council in the 10 years I've been hanging around here, and I'm hoping it's going to be a template for the rest of the state.
I tell you, the bar has been set incredibly high for this. I feel the pressure, as does Chief Tupper. Luckily, my magic wand is in the car, because I think that's what people think it's going to take. We don't have any magic speeches. We don't always know the right things to say. But if we could provide some hope, some choice, some possibilities for some families, that may be the best that we can do. So we just have to be mindful that the bar isn't set too high that we will never reach it. When we turn out our outcomes, if we help 20 people, that's wonderful. You just never know down the road, a few years later, a decade later, what impact we made, we may not know. So we could provide hard numbers for you and some anecdotal stories, but in time, maybe it'll be a life-saving event that we don't know down the road, providing treatment to somebody or referring them out, or right place, right time. So just be mindful of the bar that we're setting. We strive to reach it, but we're learning just like you all. We'll do the best we can, but know there will be barriers. We will struggle. We will just do the best we can using the taxpayer dollars that we've been given.
Other questions or comments?
Your Honor, I just have to say I am so proud of what you guys are attempting to do. And I have, like Your Honor said, I have faith and confidence that we're going to make a difference in people's lives here in Marshalltown. This is an incredible event and an incredible project working together. So thank you for your diligence, and let us know how we can help you.
I appreciate that.
You have a big new job coming up, and I need year 2 funding, so
Okay.
I'll be calling on you in January.
I truly, as Your Honor said, I truly think this is going to be a model for the state.
I do too.
And if we can make it work, it's going to make a huge difference across Iowa.
Yeah, and I echo David's comments. I'll just say that I don't see any pressure here, because we can't fail. You can never fail when you try something new to try to help people. And I know we're going. I know we're going to have a positive impact on the community. So we'll make some mistakes. I make mistakes every day. You guys are used to that. But we will make this work. I'm confident.
We're with you.
Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes,
If I may.
you may.
I spoke to Dave earlier today, and I just want to reiterate in front of everyone in the public, you guys come back to us when you are ready, okay? There's a lot of people looking over our shoulder, looking over your shoulders. Do not get caught up in their agendas, their timetable. And I like what was said earlier, I truly have the faith in you guys and your organizations. You will come back to us when you are ready with that final plan that we can start this program. So thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You bet. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's go on to the next item, which is public comment. And at this time, I need to read this slightly amended proviso that members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda. During this time, again, approach the mic or your telephone, state your name and address. Limit comments to 3 minutes unless longer comment is authorized by me. Direct the comments to the mayor or council as a whole, and the mayor or council shall not engage in discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on those items in order to comply with the open meetings laws. With that said, I see no member of the public here in person, but let's unmute the phones and see if anybody has any public comment.
The lines are unmuted.
Okay, that's our 10 seconds plus. Then we are ready to go into closed session, so I suppose we need a motion to do so.
So move, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.